There's Just Something About Kansas City is brought to you by the generosity of our friends with the Haverty family, the Illig family, the Kearney Warnell Foundation, UMB Bank trustee, the Sherman family, the Cockrell family, Kansas City Orthopedic Institute, Don and Mary Doherty, and the Bergman family. Thank you.
Welcome, folks, to another episode of There's Just Something About Kansas City, where we talk about the people, places, and things that make this such a great place to live. Don't forget, you can get us anywhere you get your podcasts. And we're on YouTube as well, so you can watch this as well. And, certainly like and subscribe. And we'd love to have you do that and give us a nice, big, fat rating there. That's what this is all about. But I'm sitting right across the table from Kelli Campbell-Goodnow. And Kelli, I really appreciate you coming in. Kelli is a Gold Star spouse, and we will talk about that. She lost her husband during a military operation as they were practicing in Hawaii, out over the North Shore of Hawaii. But we will certainly get to that, okay? And you're with Valor Partners, and you're really helping other Gold Star families not fall through the cracks. And I just think that's just terrific.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Kelli for a minute before we get there. You are a Texas girl. Right. And I think you grew up in Bryan College Station, right?
That's right.
You grew up right there at Texas A&M. So
right across the street.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was no chance you were going to be a Longhorn, right?
No, I was not given any choice. Really.
Yeah, right. And so was there any trepidation with you about as you grew up to maybe I will go to Baylor, or I'll go to TCU, or I'll go to Texas Tech?
Yeah. There wasn't really, and it really came down to being the most affordable option. I was right there in town, and I did live on campus my first year, but I could easily go grocery shop in Mom's pantry instead of the store. And it was just the easiest option, I think. And I look back and think, gosh, I wish I'd been more adventurous, maybe gone somewhere. But it was definitely where I was meant to be. And
I think everything is falling right into place. You know what I didn't realize when I was looking this up? I did not realize that Texas A&M in 2024, 61,000 undergraduate students.
Massive.
It's the largest university in the country. I never realized that. And I've been here in the Midwest, and we covered when they were in the Big Eight, and then when they split, and the whole thing. I mean, I've been covering Texas A&M for a long time, and all of a sudden they go, 61,000 undergraduates.
Right.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like I got to grow up and watch that happen. I don't know how big it was in 81 or 2 when we moved to College Station, but my family, I was 2 or 3, and we moved into a house literally across the street from the campus, across from the golf course. And so I just grew up watching everything change in the street. Our street name changed from Jersey Street to George Bush Drive when they were trying to bring the library, and just the size. And now every time I go back, it's a different place. It's unrecognizable. It's just, massive.
And so what was growing up like right across the street from a major university like that?
It was fun. I mean, I don't know anything different, but also my parents were in ministry. College students, and so our life surrounded.
That's why you lived right across the street.
That's why we were there, and so our whole family life revolved around the college, and I learned to ride my bike in the empty parking lots during the summer, and and we just always had students in and out of our house, and so it was just that was my life growing up as a kid. That's all I knew was Texas A&M.
What about siblings?
3 siblings.
Okay.
So I'm the second of 4. And we're all, within 2 years apart. So, so my mom had her hands full.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, where are they scattered? Are they scattered all over the country?
We are now. So now my oldest sister's just outside Philly, in south of Philly. My younger sister is in Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
They're both married with 4 kids. And then my brother was in Houston, but he now lives here in Kansas City. So he has migrated this way as well.
Yeah.
Him and my sister-in-law and their 5 children are here.
Wow.
So that's great to have some family close.
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, and then all of a sudden you get out of high school and you're going to go to A&M. And your thoughts, I know when you were at A&M, you were a Parks and Recreation and Tourism.
That's right.
What were your thoughts when you went to school?
That's a real thing.
It is a real thing, yeah. And it was a BS, it's Bachelor of Science.
That's right. Very official. Tourism science. My thoughts were, in those days, it was, well, you go to college. You're just supposed to, so you go. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I really enjoyed the outdoors. I had worked at summer camps and found out about this major and was like, well, I can major in this and, running programs outdoors. And so that's what I did. And it was really it was fun. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And then fast forward, I married a Marine and
Yeah.
became a professional tourist, you could say.
Yeah, really, yeah. Packing boxes, you became a
that's right.
professional
That's right.
as well, too. So or were you a big outdoors person at that time? Were you an athlete at all?
I swam all through high school, so I was a swimmer, and then in high school went on a backpacking trip that just turned me on. I had grown up visiting the mountains. My family vacationed in Colorado every a couple times a year, and so the mountains were my happy place. And went backpacking for the first time, fell in love with it, and so then in college I worked at a camp where we did backpacking trips, and so I took classes like rock climbing and canoeing and whitewater, and I just got to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is funny because I've been to Colorado countless times, on vacation, and I ended up climbing a lot of the 14ers out there.
Yep, same.
So the deal, I can't tell you how many times I was at the trailhead with all the Texas license plates.
Yeah.
And how many people I hiked up those mountains with who were from Texas.
It's true. I think the joke used to be Texas keeps Colorado green.
That's as far as money's concerned, absolutely, yeah.
Because we all had to escape the heat.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Did you ever do a 14er when you were there?
I did. Quite a few.
Okay,
actually.
good.
Yeah. I think like 8 or 9.
Yeah, right. It's hard to explain to people about the 14er, and they think about, are you crazy? Or what are you walking up? No, because you have to get to the top of one of those, and all of a sudden you turn around and you go, you know what? This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it keeps you sort of mentally in shape to try to stay in shape all year round because you've got to go do them.
Yeah.
Or you're going to go do them. And you really do have to be in pretty good physical shape to do it.
I was just in Colorado last week, in fact.
Oh, were you?
Looked up at a 14er that I have climbed before, and we kind of went, we need to do that again. We need to get the next time.
Yeah,
so,
next time. There's always next
time
year.
to get back to that.
Never put it off. So, and I know Texas A&M, they have the Corps of Cadets. And they have a big military presence. So you see them at all the football games. And
That's right.
The 12th man. And
That's
the whole
right.
thing. So, you met Shawn, your husband, there. Talk about, how did you meet?
Yeah. Okay, so interestingly, I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school, and he was probably in his first or second year there at A&M. He had come from Houston, and he was a youth leader at my church, but not with the junior high. So I just kind of knew who he was, and we had some friends in common. Then I went to A&M, started working at a coffee shop, and he was a regular at the coffee shop.
Had he always been a regular, or did he become a regular when you were working, when you were the barista?
I think so. But I just remember him always being there, and we always had friends in common. Our paths kind of just kept crossing, but we really didn't get to know each other. And I think it was, 2 years later. I mean, it was a long time. He worked at the climbing wall on campus. He was also an outdoors guy, and which is why we had people in common. And a couple years later, I showed up to work one day, and he was behind the bar. He had gotten a job. And so then we just started working together and getting to know each other through work. Working, that kind of was my social life, and that was that. 9 months later, I think it was, we were engaged.
You were engaged, so
yeah.
Well, where did he ask you? Did he ask you on campus somewhere?
At that coffee shop.
At the coffee shop.
That's right.
I was wondering if he was behind the counter. Yeah.
It was there. Kind of in the drive-thru. He left a note, and then he came inside, and it's just crazy that I was working that night, but he arranged it so that he could do that, and then I could leave.
Yeah. So, was he in the Corps of Cadets?
He was not, actually. So he had he was older than me and had a bit of a later start to college. So we ended up graduating at the same time. But he had gone somewhere else for a semester. It wasn't for him, and then he took some time off, and he was teaching rock climbing in Houston and trying to figure out his life. And so then when he came to A&M, he was a little older. And when he started thinking about the military, he didn't want to start from the fish year in the Corps and go through all that. He was he was ready to graduate.
He was too old for that. He's with all the 18-year-olds. Yeah.
Exactly, and he was already 21, 22. And so he did something called PLC combined, where kind of an ROTC maybe.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to mess that up. But he went to classes and did training, and then went to OCS for 10 weeks this summer that we got married.
Any trepidation of you marrying a military guy? I know you're in love and the whole thing, but was there any trepidation, a family or whatever, marrying someone from the military?
There wasn't, and that's something I'll never forget. Is I was, like you said, just couldn't see past, we're in love. But Shawn actually took the time to write, just like what you've got there, yellow legal pad. He wrote a list of questions. Yeah. It made 2 pages of questions to consider. And it was things like, do you know that, this is what my job's going to be. This is what it might entail. This is what could happen. It was just a list of what ifs. And of course, I thought about them. But when you're 20, you don't.
You go, yes, I'm fine.
Of course.
It's all good.
Yeah, but I do remember we read through that list carefully. We cried, and then we put it away and didn't ever look at it again. So it was like I just look back and think what wisdom he had to say. Let's look at it. Let's talk about the what ifs, and then let's not live in fear.
And there were a lot of military actions going on around the world at that time too, and he could be deployed anytime. As a helicopter pilot, did he got into aviation? Obviously, was he interested in maybe jets or a different kind of?
Right.
They all want to fly a jet, right? Yeah. They all want to be Maverick.
Yeah, right? Initially, we had a dog. He had just gotten a puppy and named it Maverick. So you nailed it. We had a little golden retriever Maverick and went into the Marine Corps knowing he would have an aviation contract, but you don't know what you're going to fly till you get there. And so but by the time he got to that point, and he was assigned helicopters, and it was the right place to be, and he enjoyed it. He loved it. But yeah, he contracted with the Marine Corps in 2000. We got married the summer of 2000 and graduated August 2001, the next year. Right. So he's, graduates August 2001, gets his commission, and exactly a month later, 9/11 happens. And so that's when that list of what ifs became a little bit more real.
Well, it became real at that point, because then you probably were thinking, he's going to go.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And then you start the packing boxes. In your life, and you've lived in a lot of places. You lived in Texas for a while, and I think you've been to Virginia, Florida, North Carolina, and then eventually to Hawaii. So talk about that all those moves, plus the fact now you're having a family. You're starting to have children as well. So you're packing all this onto the packing. There's more boxes.
Yeah, and we loved it. We were just excited to see new places, live new places. And with the military, the community is just so unique in that everybody's in that same position. And so everybody understands you don't have time to wait around to make friends and figure out your perfect place. You have to make a choice to get there and plug in and find your people. And I think we did a really good job of that wherever we went. We would find a great church, and then through that, when we moved the next time, there's always somebody that's already been there or has a friend there. And so then you just have connections more and more as you go. And so it never felt like we were going somewhere completely alone where we weren't going to know anybody. And we just really enjoyed the community everywhere we went.
Yeah, and I think if people think about it, you are a niche. And you become so closely knit as families, because you're all in the military. You're all doing the same thing. And they may be here 9 months from now. They may not be. They might have moved or moved on or whatever, or maybe, retired or done whatever, served their time of duty, and then they're gone. But you have to continue to keep that community going, right? I have a little bit of experience with this. My oldest sister was married to a Navy man. Okay, he was a dentist in the Navy, so I know how the military guys don't like those guys. But they, because they have the soft jobs, they don't have to go anywhere; they stay on the ship. And so he was career Navy. And then my brother was career Air Force, and he was an electrical engineer. And I'm just going to give a quick shout out to him. He was one of, I think, a very, very few people. They designed the laser guidance system for the smart bombs.
Oh, wow.
They were in Alamogordo, New Mexico, White Sands Missile Base out there. He said when we started throwing those things up, we had no idea where they were going to go.
Oh, my gosh.
So it was and they moved many times. They're in Dayton, Ohio, Alamogordo, New Mexico. They were all over the place. So it's
interesting.
It was interesting to try to keep ahead of him with his addresses for Christmas cards or whatever. Where are you this year? Type thing. So I think I know a little bit about what you went through. I don't not everything, but it's hard. That's hard to do. And then the kids have to transition. They have to make new friends, and that's not always easy, right? Because they all have different personalities, right?
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest is shepherding the kids through all the transitions, because we knew what we signed up for, and we were ready for it. And, we, as adults, we could figure it out. But for kids, it's confusing. Like, where are we going? Why are we moving again? And we did, some things like we chose to homeschool for that reason, so that school could go with us. And it gave us a built-in community wherever we went to. And so, again, and I think it gave my kids an amazing perspective now that they have that they wouldn't otherwise, that I'm really, really thankful they have.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you for homeschooling, because I couldn't wait until summer was over, okay, or Christmas vacation was over.
Yeah, I'm not sure I was good at it. When we lived in Hawaii especially, there was much more beach going than school happening, but
a little surfing,
it worked.
Skimboarding,
right.
Body surfing, doing whatever, right? Yeah, well, it's a nice day,
Right,
So,
right. The house is hot. We can't do math. Let's go to the beach.
Yeah, how's it? Let's go to the beach. We're going to go. Yeah, well, so we'll get into it here. Talk about the accident and then a little bit of the aftermath as we go through here. January 14th, 2016 is a day that, it's just a very, very difficult day for you and your whole family.
Yeah, very much. It was the 13th that Shawn left, normal day. He had a night flight, and that was a normal thing, which means
he was do night ops, right?
He was home in the morning, and I remember he was prepping for that flight, and we had, this is just after Christmas break. The kids and I were actually going to go back to our homeschool group co-op that next day. We were packing up Christmas decorations, so it was kind of that transition day, and everybody's grouchy, and we're not ready to be done with vacation, and he's going back to work, and so he went in the afternoon, but we had all been grouchy, and I think I was sick. I had come down with bronchitis. There's just a lot going on, and so I remember that day. Before he left, he gathered us all in the living room. He sat us down, me and the kids were 11, 9, 6, and 2. Okay, little kids, and he just gathered us all to just sort of take a breath and have a family prayer and hit reset. Like, hey, we're all grouchy, but we're sick. There's stuff going on, but we love each other, and let's just, he wanted to leave on a peaceful note, right? And again, wisdom that he didn't know he had, and so that was our goodbye, and he left that afternoon. Said he'd be home in the morning, and again, we had chosen not to live in fear, and I never when he left did I fear he wouldn't come back. I could have, but I'm glad I didn't, because that would have taken away all the joy for 15 years. And but that day, they flew that night, and I remember I actually could hear the helicopters. They flew by our house over the beach to land, and then they hot seated, and he jumped in, and some other, they traded out some people and took off for the next flight. And I remember that. I remember hearing it and then going to sleep, and no fear. And that was a little before midnight. And then I was woken up by a phone call at 4 a.m. from my dad, who at that time was here in Kansas City. My parents had moved here from Texas since then. And there's a 6-hour time difference, and so it was on the news. There had been a crash in Hawaii, and my family kept going back and forth. They're all texting each other, can we call Kelli? Can we just make sure? I'm sure it's not Shawn. Let's just check. But they knew it was 3, 4 in the morning when they were hearing this, and so they waited, and finally my dad just said, I can't. I'm just going to call. And so I remember that confusion of answering the phone at that hour, waking up and like, who am I talking to? And then realizing it's my dad, and then realizing what he's saying, something about a crash. And I remember he said, is Shawn home? And I put my hand over, and he wasn't. And so in that very moment, I knew, they were reporting 2 helicopters had collided and gone down, and there's only one squadron on the island. I knew that was the only flight happening that night. And so I knew, but, you're just in this fog of total confusion. Like, you can't process that. And so I got up and I started trying to make calls. And, of course, nobody was answering the phone. Squadron members' phones had been confiscated, and they weren't allowed to answer calls. And nobody was saying anything, which is frustrating, because here it is on national news on the mainland, and
nobody's talking to you.
Nobody's talking to us yet, and it's still dark, and so there was just a few hours that morning. I mean, it was a few hours. It just went by in a blink. But where I was trying to call, and I was just sort of sitting there going, what do I do? My babies are asleep. Do I wake them up and drive to the base and demand, answers? And it was just about sunrise. I was sitting outside my house on the sidewalk on the phone with a friend who was on her way over. And she didn't know what was going on either, but she was coming over. And that was when, as I was on the phone with her, when I saw the officers walking towards the gate. And we had this gated fence around our yard. And they came in, and I just, even in that, they came in to say, we don't know. And that was, I remember looking him in the face, and he said, we don't know. It was a good friend of Shawn's that came. And so it was, I feel like in my gut, I knew.
Yeah.
But I was relieved that I didn't have to admit it yet.
Right. And I think maybe when you first heard from Dad, you think there was still hope. Maybe, okay, they crashed over water.
Yeah, they're in life rafts
They've got
somewhere.
life vests on, the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. And so at first I was really, honestly, that week, I remember feeling kind of angry. Like, why are you giving us this false hope? We're going to nightly Coast Guard briefings, and, they're out there searching. But, eyewitnesses, we know the fireball in the sky. Like, we know they didn't survive. And I just remember being frustrated and not knowing how to talk to my kids or what to do. And we're just waiting through this week. And I realize now, looking back, that week, for 5 days that they were searching and not, saying, anything final, all my family got to the island. They all got on planes and came out. And so my parents were there, and Shawn's parents and siblings and friends came from all over. And so on that last day, when they did, declare, we were surrounded, we were held. And the hardest moment of my life was having to tell my kids.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to do it alone. And I didn't have to do it, that first day with strangers in my living room. I did it with everybody surrounded. So,
yeah. How'd the kids process that time? I know now they're all 9 years older than they were then, right? So
right.
now you got a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and an 11-year-old. Okay,
that's
right. But at that time, the 2-year-old and the 11-year-old, 11, 9, 6, and 2, how did they process it?
Yeah, all different.
Initially.
Oh, yeah, initially just, the 2-year-old had no idea what was happening, right? But then I've got an 11-year-old turning 12 that month who's just lost his dad. And so you can imagine it's all different, and there's no processing it in that moment. It was just confusion and fog, and I hardly even remember what was happening, but they processed it over the last 10 years in different ways, for sure, as they've grown. And again, we had so much support and help and love from family that we just were never alone in it. And that made all the difference, I know.
Yeah. And so, and your parents, ironically, that's why you're here, today, they moved from College Station, I think.
That's right.
I think they were still there. And they moved to Kansas City. Why did they move here? And I know you're going to end up coming back here.
Yeah.
How'd they land in Kansas City?
Yeah. So as I said, my parents were in ministry with college students, and so they had been on the Texas A&M campus for 25 years, and the ministry moved, it's called the Navigators, and had them move up here to become sort of overseers of multiple campuses of staff. And so they moved to Kansas City around 06, 07. And they spent the next 10 years just driving all over the Midwest to college campuses and shepherding staff in the area. And so, they had been here a while. It had become home. Right. And yeah. Yeah,
so you're now a widow with 4 young children.
Yeah.
And after a while, I knew you had all the family and the sport and everything, but then eventually everybody leaves. Everybody has lives. They all eventually go back to where they got to go. And you had to make a decision, and I'm sure having your mom and dad here was definitely, a wonderful thing. So your decision was, I'm going to go to Kansas City, right?
Yeah, yeah. And interestingly, we had a conversation, Shawn and I, a few months before. There was kind of a near mishap in the squadron one day, and it could have gone bad, and then at the same time, like the same week, we got a tsunami warning, which we got all the time there, and but we kind of got to talking like, well, what if something terrible, what if a tsunami did wipe out our house? We live right on the beach. well, we'd go to Kansas and we'd figure it out. Like, there was just no question. That's our safe place. We know we'd have a place to go, and we'd figure out life from there. And so it was just kind of an offhand conversation, but I remembered it later. And so I knew, as I was facing leaving or staying, I knew Hawaii wasn't going to be home forever, and it was definitely too expensive to stay, and
Absolutely.
so I didn't have to leave right away, but it made sense just to come here, be with them, and sort of ride out that storm.
Yeah, right. And so as far as the military is concerned, in the Gold Star, I've been to a couple of Gold Star things at Leavenworth. Where I was emceeing something, or they invite you to do some things up there with the Gold Star families. And I know peripherally what it is about, trying to take care of that. But it's still extremely difficult for Gold Star families, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you lose, we lost Shawn, but also we lost our whole way of life. Everything familiar we'd ever known, moving around. The Marine Corps always told me where to live. So how do I choose my own zip code? Didn't know how to do that. So, yeah, there's just, it just kind of felt like the follow-on losses just compounded. There's, as anybody knows, going through grief, there's loss after loss after loss that you have to face. Yeah.
How'd you cope with that?
My faith, God got me through it for
But
sure.
you leaned on mom and dad.
And mom and dad, definitely. I'm pretty sure my mom potty trained Donovan, my youngest, and it was just and my family has been amazing, and friends are, it was hard to feel like we were losing our military community, but then I realized how much we weren't. And here now they're spread around the world, and we still get to see them as they move in PCS back and forth across the country. Kansas City is conveniently right in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle.
But yeah, it's been a process.
So when did you, I think Folds of Honor, I think was probably was that your first foray into the, helping people who were in the same exact situation you were?
Yeah.
Was that your first foray? And then you ended up going to Rockhurst, right?
I
You
did.
ended up getting an MBA from
I did.
Rockhurst,
I know. Yeah.
which is,
From Parks and Rec to
what happened
MBA.
to Parks and Rec?
Yeah,
and all this? Yeah,
Never say that. I finally grew up and figured out what I wanted
right.
to do.
You finally went to school. Okay. I'm not sure that Parks and Rec thing is a real major. All right.
I don't know. Yeah. So, my first, and that was one of the things, besides my family and friends and everybody coming around us, suddenly there's all these organizations coming out of the woodwork that are just there to help and helping us. And I didn't know what to ask for, so help was just showing up in these different ways. And I had been homeschooling the kids. And so, and as I said, we were going to go back to homeschool that next day. Obviously, that didn't happen. This is January. We moved in February. March comes around. It's, spring break time frame, and I'm looking at my kids, and we haven't been doing school, and I'm like, I'm failing these kids. What do I do now? I live in my parents' basement. Our house is in storage, and I kind of started to have this panic moment, and I prayed that day. Like, I don't know what to do or how to do this anymore. And that day, I got a call about a school here in Kansas City and Folds of Honor. And here's this potential opportunity to put your kids in school. And the rest is history. I did.
What's the name of the school?
It was Whitfield Academy.
Okay.
Is where they started out. And we were there for several years. And now they're at Kansas City Christian now, still receiving scholarships that help pay for their tuition. And one has graduated and he's in college, and the next one just graduated and she's on her way. And so that has been the journey, just to see how education for them, having them taken care of in that way, allowed me to then figure out what I needed to do for me and how I needed to become, the supporter of our family. And I just kind of kept saying yes to the next thing and the next thing. They asked me to speak at Folds of Honor.
I've heard about
on behalf
this.
of recipients. Yeah, and I said, no way. I would love to just, I'll smile and volunteer and do whatever you need, but I am not a speaker, especially not, like this. But they were giving me a chance to say thank you. Yeah. And it had made such a difference. I knew I couldn't pass that up. And so I thought, okay, fine, I'll do this. And I, went to a little event and spoke and was able to say thank you to people supporting the mission. And I just, it made me realize how much that meant, and it meant a lot to me. It was healing for me to share my story, and then it was healing to know I was getting to pass on what had just been overwhelmingly given to us.
Yes.
And then it just continued. And so that snowball led to opportunities I never expected. Never thought I'd go back to school, but there I was. And now it's led to what I'm doing now.
There you are.
Yeah.
MBA, Executive Director of Valor Partners,
yeah.
right? Crazy. And the best
Who are
part
you?
is I'd heard about the hesitancy on your part to speak in front of people, and I know it's good to talk about it, but losing someone. But so you do this, and on your LinkedIn it says strengths. Public speaking, and I laughed. I just went, "Oh my gosh!"
Isn't that funny?
She was just petrified to do it.
Something I
Now that's
avoided
awesome.
my whole life. I mean, literally sat in the academic advisor's office or somebody in college and sort of finagled my way out of a public speaking class. You know, I was like, "Can I just take this other speech elective where you don't actually give speeches?" and made it work. So I really worked hard to avoid public speaking and. Child of ministry parents.
Yeah,
I think
who are speaking
said,
all the time.
when I grow up, I'm not gonna speak, and I'm not gonna ask for money.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna fundraise or
That's right.
speak. And now that's what I do. So never say never.
where are the kids in college?
My oldest is in Tokyo, Japan.
Oh
He
my
is at Temple
gosh.
University in Tokyo.
Oh, and
So-
what's his?
He started learning Japanese in high school on his own. He is amazing. He started teaching himself. He got really good at it. So his senior year, he met a friend that was going to take a Japanese class at Johnson County Community College. And he's like, "Oh, I should do that." And so we got him enrolled, and he aced it. A class that more than half the class dropped out or failed out.
absolutely,
He aced it. So then he took the next class. He aced that, and the professor was like, "There's some good schools in Tokyo," and that's where he ended up. So he just decided he wanted to go and be immersed in the culture and really, really learn the language. And it's an American school, Temple, the same Temple that's in Philly.
in Philly, yeah.
But they
North
have a
Philadelphia.
Japan campus. So he's been there 2 years.
I'm glad he's over there, and not at Temple in Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah, no, he's loving it.
We'll leave it at that. Okay.
He's loving it.
Yeah, and then the next one.
The next one, my daughter, she is going to Palm Beach Atlantic University.
Now there's a little difference in education.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally different. Little.
Palm Beach Atlantic.
Yeah.
That's one
Yeah.
I've never heard of.
So it's a little
Okay.
Christian school on the beach in West Palm that we never would have found or heard of, but we have really our close friends from Hawaii. Our pastor there, he actually moved to Florida, and they're there now. And so that's how we discovered it and went to visit. Really, it was an excuse to see them,
Sure.
but she fell in love with the school.
Yeah.
And they have an equestrian
I think I would have
team,
too.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's we're walking around. I'm like, this isn't college. This is a resort. This is a resort school.
exactly. It's
Coming
like
from
Pepperdine on the
it's
West Coast.
it's
yeah.
beautiful, but it really is a neat little school. I really I'm excited for the
And
community.
what
she's
does she
joining.
aspire? Well, what does your oldest aspire to do with the Japanese? You want to go
Yeah.
NATO, be a translator? Or,
Good question.
you have
He
no
has
idea?
so many options and so many interests that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to do everything, and so he's studying Japanese and communications,
Okay.
double major. So we'll see. I think he wants to just keep traveling and be kind of an entrepreneur, and
Wonderful.
he's going to do great.
That's great.
My daughter's studying nursing, and yeah, just people say, "Oh, Florida, that's so far," and I'm like, "Well, no, I can actually
It's
visit
airplane.
there for a
Yeah,
weekend."
there are airplanes. Yeah, I can
I'll
get
take
that.
it.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific. And then the other ones are just they're coming along. And they'll figure it out along the way, right?
Yeah.
So you've lost, back to the original. You've lost your husband. You have 4 small children, and you start maneuvering your way through the folds of honor and starting to do things and all that, and then get with Valor Partners. Explain Valor Partners a little bit, and then we'll go back to talk about you've been remarried. You're remarried now, and we can talk about that as well. But explain Valor Partners a little bit. You're the executive director now, and you just want to try to make sure that no one is forgotten as
Yeah.
far as these Gold Star families are concerned.
Yeah, and it's actually our mission, our target recipient is not necessarily the Gold Star family. It's the spouse and child, the family of the 100% disabled or deceased veteran. So, the difference would be, my husband died on active duty in a training accident, and so Gold Star. So my children receive the post 9/11 GI Bill for
Right.
college, and it's this huge benefit. They are taken care. It's the reason I was able to go back to school was I knew I could pay for my school because they were taken care of, and so I just see this huge benefit and blessing that we have. And then you look at the families of our disabled veterans. different benefit. It's called Dependents Education Assistance from the VA, and it's a small stipend.
Yeah, it's not very much.
Astronomically
It doesn't
different.
cover hardly anything, right?
No, so the disparity is just massive, and I just think, but these families almost need it more. And my kids, not only do they have this benefit, they're getting scholarships, and they're getting just offers of help from everywhere. And then
just because of a different circumstance, which was devastating either way.
Right. But a service member dies of a service-connected illness or injury after their service. To me, that's the same thing. It's their service led to that, but their family receives a different form of help, and it's not enough. It's great that it's there, but it is not enough. And so too many DEA students, or Chapter 35 as they're called, they get into school thinking they've got this benefit and they're going to be okay, and then they find out pretty quickly, I can't afford this. And if you talk to any college campus, military and veterans center, financial aid person, they will tell you that is the student of their military-connected population, that is the student that needs the most help. That's the student falling through the cracks, dropping out. And so that's what our program targets specifically.
Yeah. And so then how do you determine when you raise the funds for all this? And are you all over the United States?
I'd sure like to be. Yeah. So our campuses are now from Hawaii, California, Virginia, North Dakota. We're in 15 states, really spread out, but still kind of very much homegrown. Kansas City is where it started. Most of our partners, you can look at the map and see we're really concentrated in Kansas, Missouri, but now we're starting to spread out, especially now as we're learning where the need is highest to reach those areas. So, yeah,
you really have to try to help these people, especially when they have so much dropout here, because you already have a disabled veteran basically in the house,
right?
Okay, who probably can't, or maybe can't work for whatever reason, and then the child comes up and everybody starts to suffer.
Or the spouse is also a caregiver, or the spouse has died after service, and now you have a widow or widower that has to become that's what I went through. Like, suddenly I had to support my family. How am I going to do this? And so that might mean going back to school and finding a new career, or getting a new certification, or whatever it is. These are families that have had their futures and their plans disrupted, and now they have to figure out something else and pivot, and we owe it to them to help them do that.
And how's this experience been for you with the Valor Partners?
Amazing. Yeah, so I came on in spring of 2023. They hired me as their first paid employee. It was a small organization, all volunteer board. They had created this model for this scholarship matching program in around 1920. And it just started to take off. 5 schools the first year in the metro said yes, and then 12 the next year, and 23 the next year. And that's about the point they got to when they said, this is too big for us volunteers. What are we doing? And so we need to act like a real organization here. And so they took a leap of faith. I took a leap of faith to come on board. Not really. I was going to have to raise my own salary, right? But it was great. I was halfway through that EMBA, and so I had this great community at Rockhurst around me too that could help me, and I was learning as I went. How to lead, and it's been amazing.
Yeah. So how do people donate, and how do they get involved with Valor Partners?
ValorPartners.org is our website, and you can read all about us there, and get in contact. Reach out to me directly. My info's there. We have a growing board. We've got volunteers that help with, some small events and things we do. Definitely, we have some amazing corporate partners that are doing pro bono things for us that we couldn't afford otherwise. Just enhancing our data capabilities and security and all the things. All the things. I started, and it was a couple spreadsheets and a board of really great people that were doing good work. But we've had to create all the systems and processes, and now we're kind of at that point. We've also hired 2 more part-time employees, and so we're still tiny but growing. But this program has just taken off. The demand is out there.
And your life has changed since all this happened as well. You're remarried now.
Yeah.
tell me how that went. Where did you meet Michael Goodnow? And how did that all happen? And then you have to blend. I think he had a daughter, right?
Right.
Or he has a daughter. And getting everybody on board for that, I know is not easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, it was though, so it was meant to be, I guess. But no, I never expected to find myself 40 and dating and, meeting someone. And we met online and, and
oh
so
my gosh.
that's how it's done now, right? I guess it's normal.
I guess, I don't know. I'll leave that to you. Okay.
I'm from a generation before where that wasn't normal. And so just the whole, it just, again, just my life for the last 10 years has been one experience I didn't expect after another, right? But no, met him. He's amazing, wonderful, just has been wonderful to the kids, and his sweet daughter just fit right in the mix there. And so, and we had a crash COVID wedding on top of all that.
Oh, my gosh.
So we had a small wedding planned in 2020, April of 2020. And then March comes around and we realized that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And it was canceled, but the shutdown hadn't happened yet. So within 1 week in March, I bought a house on Monday. We moved into it on Tuesday, Wednesday. We got married in it on Wednesday. The world shut down on Friday. And all our kids came home, and that was that.
Oh, my
God.
So you're talking about a forced blend. Boom.
Yeah, it could have gone really
badly. We're all
badly.
here together. You're not allowed outside for a year. So here we are, right? We're all in the basement. Yeah.
That could have gone south real fast. But no, it actually was the hugest blessing that we were all in the same house. We weren't running around with crazy carpools and schedules. And we just were forced to bond that year. And
Where'd you meet him? Where'd you meet Michael?
Well, we met online.
That's right. I'm sorry. You said that. That's right,
And then, our first date, we just met for drinks and, said hi. And then we just hit it off right away and realized we had some friends in common. And I was living in the neighborhood he had grown up in Leawood. And so,
and the kids, how did that all?
Yeah, that was probably the scariest thing. And it was a few months. We talked for a few months before. I didn't want to introduce them to anybody until I knew this is somebody that's going to stick around, and same for him. And so, but that didn't take long before we felt that way and we knew. And so, and they just hit it off right away. I'm sure my kids would have different stories to tell, things they remember or things they were afraid of. But no, it really is miraculously how smooth it went, and how happy everyone was.
Yeah, and for him also to come into a situation like that as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a divorce situation.
Yeah.
For him it was something that is totally different that you
and I can't even, imagine what that means for him coming into my big family, my big, huge family. And for him to, I just, all the feelings around that, feeling like he's replacing someone. He's not, but he is filling the shoes. He's filling the space for my kids. It's been just amazing. But it's hard to explain to people that haven't lived that. And I've, been privileged to love two great men.
Interesting. Good now.
Good,
your life is good now. His last
name,
your last name's
I'm
good
not
now?
Gonna lie. The first time,
are you good?
The first time I learned his name was when we actually met, and it struck me like, what? Your name is what? It is kind of fun to say my name is good now.
and how is Michael as far what does he do? And
so he is a recruiter at engineering firm here in town, Burns & McDonnell, and before that, for about 7-8 years, he was a police officer in Lawrence and Leawood and Casey Mo. He went from
God
that
bless him
to,
for his service.
And just life changes. He ended up kind of leaving that and going into
sort of
what he's doing
think
now.
you're sort of glad he was no longer a police officer.
Yeah.
Just a little bit in the back of your mind,
Not gonna lie, I don't mind so much, and I know he misses it. He loves, his friends, his community is still there, but
another
he's glad
tight-knit,
too.
close niche community. You know, they understand each other. Which is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think engineers do in a little way too. As far as that's concerned. But that's great. So everything's all, and his daughter is Avery.
Avery,
is her name? Yeah. And what is she doing now? And
so when Kenna, my oldest, now the next one to go to college, we'll have Kate at home. She'll be a junior. Avery will be in 8th grade, and Donovan, my youngest, is going into 6th grade. I don't have any elementary school kids left.
Wow.
This will be the first year I don't have one in every single
This is
age
when they
group.
really get mean too, but you already know that,
I
right?
know, yeah. So, yeah, it's going to feel like a quiet household when there's only 3.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So.
but the mom and dad thing for us here in Kansas City to have you here and to have developed the Valor Partners Foundation and all the good work you're doing, having mom and dad here, moving here was like another one of those things you just go,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
It's just out of the
Yeah.
blue, and they're in Kansas City.
Yeah, where is that?
Yeah,
I
where is that?
remember when my parents lived here, this was such a foreign place, an idea. I'd never been to this area. And it was a couple years before I got to visit. They moved here, I think, 06, 07. And I think my first time visiting was the winter of 2007.
And you picked the winter to come back. Yeah, that
But
was a good
I
idea.
grew up in Texas and always dreamed of snow. And so I came, my husband was deployed. I brought, so my son was about 4 because Kenna was not quite 1. And so I came with 2 kids. My husband was deployed. We drove all this way from North Carolina. And Christmas Eve, it started to snow, and it was just the best thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we're going to have snow. And then it kept snowing, and it was one of those years.
Now we can't go home.
And which was fine, we spent a good maybe 6 weeks here that first winter when, during the deployment, and with the kids. My daughter learned to walk here. And
That's really cool. Yeah.
And that, again, fast forward, having this place, and even though I didn't know anybody here, it wasn't home to me. It was where my parents were and where we were comfortable and where the kids had been. And so it was, the right home to come to, even though I didn't know yet that it would actually become home.
So what are your thoughts about Kansas City itself?
I love it. I from the first moment, again, just all the help and community we experienced, so much of that was here when we got to Kansas City, just people hearing our story or who knew my parents and would, just coming out to help. And it was just kind of that trickle-down effect, that first piece was the school. And finding a school and putting my kids in school was kind of like, okay, well, I think we're going to stay. So then I started looking for a house and found a house, and then found a church near that house. And then, and it's like everything just sort of builds, and suddenly you see this community coming together you didn't expect. And I have fallen in love with the city. We've lived in a lot of places. I have a lot of places to compare it to. And it's one of the best. It's a small, big city. Everybody knows everybody. You can get around easy, but you have all the great, fun stuff that a big city has. And so I've definitely grown to love it. My kids miss the beach, which is probably why they're all going to college in places with water. But that's understandable. So.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we're glad you're here, and for all of your great work with Valor Partners Foundation.
That's right.
Get that right. And I know you've beaten a drum at Arrowhead, right? Didn't you get beat the drum at Arrowhead?
I did, yeah.
My gosh, you can't beat that.
I did.
Just
a couple years ago. Well, and funny enough, when I joined Valor Partners, we had a different name. It was called the Heart of America Patriot Foundation.
Okay.
And that's how they started out in 2012. And we had been talking about the idea of maybe rebranding, changing the name, or growing nationally, because we were finding the name is hard to say, hard to remember. It doesn't make a good acronym. It's a little, cumbersome. And when I beat the drum at Arrowhead, they said that I was with the American Heart Association. And nothing against the American Heart Association, but
they have enough help. They have enough help. We need a little help here, yeah.
That was sadly a missed opportunity, but it was kind of the confirmation we needed to go. Okay, it's time. This is the right thing to do.
So it worked as a blessing as well.
It did, and now
Partners
is important. That's what we do. Yeah, we partner with schools. So
welcome to KC, and you're now officially a Kansas Cityan since you beat the drum at Arrowhead before Chiefs game. So it's great. But we're glad to have you here, and continued blessings for you and your entire family. And thanks for sharing some time with us today.
Thank you very much.
There's Just Something About Kansas City is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization with the mission of documenting the stories that have built our city to inspire and educate generations to come. Our work is being made possible by the generous support of local partners like you. You can help us share these stories by becoming a sponsor today. Visit somethingaboutKC.org to learn more.